Welcome to another episode of Quarantine Kitchen at the Atlanta Community Food Bank. My name is Kristen Elliott, and I am one of the food bank's dietitians. So thanks for joining us for episode number 19. Can't believe it's 19 already. And this time around, we are celebrating February as National American Heart Month. So I decided to bring some sweet things along for the ride today instead of focusing on the savory recipes that I talk about most of the time. So for this episode, we are going sweet for heart health. There is a way for you to incorporate sweets into a heart healthy diet. And one of those ways is to focus on heart healthy fats in your sweet treats to benefit your heart health. So I'm going to show you two different things that you can make that are super simple and satisfy a dairy or a chocolate sweet tooth. So those two, they're going to be separate today. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and combine my components for a yogurt bar with dried nuts and dried fruit. So you can use fresh fruit for this, but today I am going to be incorporating a fruit and nut mix that we have in our food bank inventory. So if we have any of our partners watching, you can recommend this recipe for the people that you are serving with this fruit and nut mix. So the first one is our yogurt bark. So it's called a frozen yogurt bark because we take our yogurt base, we freeze it with our mixed nuts and fruit over the top of it. So this one's really tasty and simple to put together, and you have a couple of options for your toppings. So first off, I've got my Greek yogurt. This is plain Greek yogurt. So it is a 2% fat yogurt, which means it is on the low-ish side for fat content. And that's what we're looking for heart healthy food choices. So for this yogurt, this is plain. And I'm talking about Greek yogurt because it has a lot more protein content and health benefits than plain yogurt. So when you're yogurt shopping, be on the lookout for the word Greek on the packaging somewhere. There are other brands that are not called Greek yogurt that fall into the same category. So there's yogurt that's called Skyr, S-K-Y-R. That's also a version of Greek yogurt. So the main difference between regular yogurt and Greek yogurt is that Greek yogurt is strained a few additional times. So you can tell by how thick it is. It has almost a sour cream thickness and consistency. That's what you're looking for a protein packed yogurt. So got my yogurt here. So this one is plain, said that. You can add some honey to your plain yogurt, about 1 tablespoon, not a ton. We just want to sweeten it a little bit. I'm just going to eyeball it. A little honey, and then not required, but I prefer it is to have just a little dash of vanilla added to your yogurt mixture. So just a little bit. We're not measuring things today. Okay, so there's that. So I'm going to mix this really well together. I was looking at the nutrition to see if you could use a vanilla flavored Greek yogurt in place of the plain and adding your own sweetness and your own vanilla. And actually you can. So look at the sugar content of your vanilla flavored yogurt to see if it's 15 grams or less per serving. If it is 15 grams or less of sugar per serving, it's going to match the sugar content of the bit of honey that I added to this plain yogurt. So you can skip that step or skip buying some honey if you don't have that on hand. And you can just use vanilla yogurt that's already sweetened and flavored, as long as it's 15 grams of sugar or less per serving. Okay, so this is my yogurt mixed up with my flavor and my sweetness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with I've got a cookie sheet here with some parchment paper. That's going to make it really easy for you to unstick it from the base that you're preparing on. So you can use a sheet that has higher rims where you can spread the yogurt out to all of the edges, or you can make a blob of yogurt, which is what I'm going to do. And then you can spread it out where it's even enough. And then we're going to top it with our nuts. So I'm going to add my yogurt here. Go. So I didn't try this with other flavored yogurt, like fruit on the bottom with other fruit flavors. So if you wanted to try that, you could try that. I'm wondering if it's a little bit more watery in consistency from the vanilla yogurt. So test it out and let me know if you want to try that. So you can see I've got my blob of yogurt. I'm just going to spread it out. Like so. You don't want it to be super thick. You don't want it to be too thin where it's going to basically melt as soon as you touch it. Spread, spread, spread. So it's called frozen yogurt because we're going to freeze this once we get our toppings on it. Okay, I'm going to grab another spatula so I can make sure to get all of my yogurt off of my first spatula here. Okay, that looks good. Yogurt is spread. I'm going to take my nuts and I'm going to just sprinkle them across the top. So you've got a couple of options I mentioned before. You can use just the nuts. You can use nuts with dried fruit, or you can use fresh fruit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my nuts here. You want to spread them out so they're not hanging out on top of each other. So it looks nice and pretty. There we go. Or you could use some fresh fruit. So over here I've got some blueberries and some raspberries. So I'm just going to dot across my yogurt. So some blueberries. These look really cool when you pull them out of the freezer because they have like an ice layer over the top, so they look a little bit shiny and crystally, and it looks really cool. There's my blueberries and some raspberries. Okay, so these are my two different versions of my toppings. So for this, now what you need to do is place this in the freezer. So this is going to take a lot longer to harden up than our chocolate version will. So you will need to give this a couple of hours and check it and see if it's hard enough, and you want it to be hard like brittle so you can easily break it or cut it with a knife and it still maintain its hard texture. So honestly, what I would do is pop this in the freezer overnight so you don't have to babysit it and keep checking it every couple of hours. And then the next morning or the next day, you'll have healthy yogurt snacks. So I'm going to pop this in the freezer now. Okay, I'm back. Okay, the next one that I'm going to show you is our chocolate bark. So you can make this chocolate bark two ways. Well, there's two ways to do several things here, so I'm going to walk you through it. First of all, we're using our same fruit and nut mix here. I'm just going to have that there. And then I'm going to use some semi-sweet chocolate chips. It doesn't matter what size the chips are. It doesn't matter if you're using a block of semi-sweet chocolate and you cut it up or shave it, or baking chocolate, as long as it's semi-sweet or dark chocolate. That's really important to stick to the heart-healthy recommendations of this dessert, this snack. Because dark chocolate actually has some implications to help your heart be healthier in the long run. So when I say that, I mean in small amounts. So, sorry, I got distracted by the vanilla on my countertop. So with the chocolate, we're going to melt it in the microwave. The second way to melt the chocolate is to bring a pot to boil over on your stovetop, and then you're going to use a bowl, well, it doesn't have to be glass, and stick it on top of your boiling water, and then you can mix it, and the boiling water underneath will melt the chocolate as you mix it. So that's another option. The easiest option is to pop it in the microwave and let it melt for 30-second increments. Or if you've done it before, you know that you can do it in a minute and a half, and you can give it a minute, stir it in another 30 seconds. So I'm going to move us over here to the microwave so we can melt our chocolate. Here we are, microwaving. I'm going to add my chocolate to the microwave. And since I tested it already, I know that it takes a few minutes here to get melted, so I'm going to go ahead and walk away from that, and I'm going to go ahead and pull out my frozen yogurt bar that I made ahead of time. So here we go. How well can we see? Okay, good, great. So this is my frozen yogurt bar that I made ahead of time. As you can see, it comes right out of the parchment paper. You've got your bark here flat. So what I'm going to do is you can use your hands to break this apart and make bark pieces, or you can use a knife. And so I'm going to, I love the little edges. They're really thin around the edges. So those are like fun little treats as you get through cutting up your bark. So I'm just going to give this a time. There we go. It might break in ways that you do not intend for it to break while you do that. But this is for as you do. Okay, and stir my chocolate chips. So you'll know that your chocolate is getting melty when it starts to look shiny through the microwave door. So that is something you can look for instead of having to babysit it. So you can see we've got some shiny bits here, but it's not completely melted. So what I like to do is make sure I spread all the chocolate back into the bowl. And I'm going to melt it for another minute. So for this chocolate bar with nuts, you have a couple of options for how you will serve it. So you can serve it in a pretty fancy way by drizzling the chocolate over the top of the nuts, similar to the promotional image that I've shared around. Or my favorite way is to dump the nuts in the chocolate, mix it all up, and spread it out, because it looks like there's more chocolate to go around whenever you mix it all into the chocolate. And so the drizzle looks a little more fancy, but it doesn't look like there's as much chocolate. So I'm a big chocolate fan. So that is why I prefer the mix and dump method, because it's quicker and things are more coated in chocolate. Either way, there's going to be equal amounts of chocolate, equal amounts of nuts. It just depends on your preference for the display. So here we go. Back to the microwave. We're getting our steps today. Okay, let's take a look here. There we go. So one way that I like to check to see if it's finished is to press down on it with my spatula to see if I see any lumps in the bottom. So I'm still seeing some lumps. We want to make sure all our chocolate's melted. So I'm going to use the side of the bowl to make sure my chocolate's all in there, and then I'm going to pop it back in the microwave. I need 30 seconds to finish this time. Okay. So also another beautiful thing about this recipe is that you can make just enough to serve yourself a snack instead of making a large amount. So it depends on how many people you're serving. You can make a little bit or you can make a lot. So I will show you what one serving looks like. It's really easy. Same process to put together. I'm gonna grab the chocolate. Okay, chocolate is melted. I don't see any chunks in here. I'm gonna make sure I grab the chocolate that I rubbed on the side of the bowl. Okay, so it looks good. I'm gonna take my nuts and I'm going to add it. I'm gonna just add, well, I'm gonna add a little bit at a time. It kind of all jumped out there. So here we go. Mixing my nuts and my chocolate together. So it may look to you as if there is not enough chocolate because we're using less chocolate than the typical recipe for this type of snack. And that is because we're focused more on the heart-healthy fats from the nuts than the fat, the dairy fat that comes from the chocolate. So one reason why dark chocolate is healthier is because it has less of the dairy fat, the saturated fat. So this is what it should look like. There are still a couple bits that don't look like they're completely covered, but they're covered enough. That looks good. Okay, so I'm going to use another parchment covered baking sheet. Then I'm going to dump my nuts here, right there, just like so. And then I'm going to spread them out in the same way that I did my yogurt. So if you want to make your ends a little bit even, you're welcome to do that. This part is totally up to you and how far you want to spread it. I try to press down on it to make sure that I'm getting like a flat layer instead of lots of nuts on top of nuts and fruit and whatever you choose. There. Okay. So this is my chocolate version. Okay, so this doesn't take as long to solidify. It takes max 20 minutes in the refrigerator or the freezer, depending on how quickly you want this to cool off and solidify. So going to pop this in the refrigerator, aka my side workstation. I'll put it in the fridge in a minute. This is what one serving size looks like. So this is about 1/4 cup of your nut mixture and 1 tablespoon of chocolate. So with that combination, we're getting a good sweet tooth satisfied, and it's also going to be great for our heart health. That's not a tiny bit of snack here. That is around a fist size, which is about the serving size for nuts, because nuts are very healthy for you, but they're also very high in fat. So we want to have it in moderation, but still include it in our diets. That's one thing that is commonly missing across our American diets in general are those plant-based fats versus animal fats or solid at room temperature fats. So that's one thing you can think about when you are making heart healthy choices, is looking at the types of fats that you use to cook with, or that you're saving from your cooking. So for example, I like to look at fats as categorized as good, bad, and ugly. So when I say good and I say bad, I mean most healthy, less healthy, and ugly is please only eat this on a very rare occasion. So our good fats are going to be fats that are liquid at room temperature. So we're talking about our vegetable oils, our olive oil, anything that will stay a liquid if you left it out on the countertop. So if you think about them being liquid like that, they're going to be higher in our unsaturated, our monounsaturated, our polyunsaturated fats. And those are a lot better for our hearts than, say, a fat that stays solid at room temperature. So if your fat is staying solid at room temperature, that means it has more saturated fatty acids in it. And so with the saturated fats, those are counterproductive for your heart health. So they are going to and start to add some inflammation to your blood vessels, and also not help, cholesterol buildup, and all of that's associated with saturated fats. So we're looking for fats that are liquid at room temperature. Those ugly fats are also going to be liquid at room temperature, but they are artificially solid. So I'm talking about things like margarine. So margarine starts as a liquid vegetable oil, and then it has hydrogen added to it to turn it into a solid fat. So it mimics butter, it mimics lard, because lard is a saturated fat, not we're talking about trans fats here in this ugly category of fats. So things like margarine aren't very healthy for us because they do have some hydrogenation. So one thing that you can look for in your ingredients list for your butter substitutes is for hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils in the ingredients. Those are going to fall into the trans fat category. Sometimes the nutrition label will say 0 trans fats in the label where the nutrients are listed. And that's because it is a small amount of trans fat per the serving of that fat. But another thing that we're not really good at doing is following portion sizes. So if we're using smaller amounts, it's going to be a little bit better, but still, I would recommend to try to back away from some of these artificially solid fats. So with our nuts, we're getting these healthy vegetable oils that are going to be heart protective for us. And with our dark chocolate, it just gives a little boost of sweet while also supporting our heart health with small portion sizes. Okay, so there are some other things that you can do to support your heart health, like being active. So if we are trying to move our bodies every week, the recommendation is 150 minutes a week. That's not a lot if you divide it across your days. Maybe some of us have physically active jobs where we are moving stuff around, or we're walking around a lot. You can easily get your physical activity time built into your work day. So keep that in mind. It is beneficial to do some weight-bearing exercise to make sure that you're not only making sure your heart rate is going up, but building some muscle, because muscle weighs more than fat. So when you have more muscle, your body is happier when you have more muscle, because it uses more energy. Your muscle uses more energy than your fat does. So while you're eating, your muscle is using a lot more of the calories from your food than your fat is. Something else that's really, really beneficial before I hop off of this call with you all is to stop smoking cigarettes. That is counterproductive to maintaining your heart health, because it affects your blood pressure in ways that is just not beneficial. Anything that affects your blood pressure should be used in moderation or stopped completely. So if you can, at even starting with baby steps, trying to stop smoking, not start smoking, will be really beneficial for your heart health. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit before I get off. It's so good. Let me grab my mouse. There's my yogurt bar. There is my chocolate and nut mixture. Let me see if I've got any friends leaving me some notes here. Rick says, I'm definitely trying this. Awesome. Let me know if you try it, please. Hello, hello. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us. This is a little quick episode that we had today. Not much cooking going on here. I hope you got some good tips out of these sweet treats that are going to benefit your heart health. The next episode is going to be the second Tuesday of March, and your host is going to be Joy. I am not going to be here for that, so that will be a nice treat to see a different face, and get to hear from a different person. So Joy will be here. We don't know what our topic is just yet, so be on the lookout for the promotion for the next episode on the second Tuesday of March. So once again, February is Heart Health Month. Try to make some healthy choices during this month that you can extend for more than February. Something small, always start small. One more add in here, we've got the Hunger Walk Run coming up on March the 7th. This year it is completely virtual, so you still have time to start building your teams and tracking your steps and sharing across your social media to get the word out. So don't forget to sign up for Hunger Walk Run. It is going to be virtual on March 7th. I will be out of town, but I am looking forward to participating from a different location. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next month.